Are we live? Are we live? Oh my gosh, there's the feedback there. Are we live? Are we live? Are we live? Are we live? Because if we are, we're going to discuss the Devils' nightmarish way to end the losing streak there, the winning streak there. They lose to Colorado last night by a final score of 8-4. But I can't talk about any of this unless I know that we are live. So let me know in the comment section below, and we will go ahead and get started. Thank you, everybody, for joining us here on Speaking of the Devils. I'm your host, Ryan Novozinsky, joining you as always from my home studio right here in Ewing, New Jersey. This is the spot where I watched the Devils tank away their winning streak last night. They fall down early, 5-0 to the Avalanche. They have they fight back obviously in the game, um, but it wasn't enough. Just a disastrous way to end that winning streak. And yeah, we will go ahead and take your questions today. But we'll start off with, let's just start off with the obvious. Let's start off with Jacob Markstrom. That was about as nightmarish as it could get for a goalie there. You have, 18 seconds into the game, you have the delay of game penalty, which just kind of sets the tone for the night. The first two goals in particular, I thought were softies. The both, according to Money Puck, were both low danger chances, and you could see that with the eye test as well. I thought most of the goals early on in the early portions of the second were to the fault of the defense. So I think Markstrom found his footing a little bit there. Um, Casey in particular, I thought had an up and down game. I think it was that third Colorado goal where he was a little rocky there. Um, but then the team comes back. Okay, that's when you can reinvent kind of your night as a goalie. There, I think a lot of fans would have forgiven Markstrom if he had responded and he had rode the momentum of that team surge, coming back and scoring. I think it was 4 goals in 4 minutes and 4 seconds. That's resilience from that team. That's when you look at it and you're like, okay, does this team have some fight back here? But then you have the untimely Timo penalty. I'm just looking at my notes here. You have the untimely Timo penalty, and Markstrom immediately gives up another softie there, a goal that he should have stopped, a goal that he should have rode the momentum on, and really, rode along with his team that was surging back. Just an awesome stretch there for the Devils to surge back again, down 5-0. I think a lot of people probably even turned the game off. Um, but Markstrom just that was the killer for them. And the dumb penalties were the killer for the Devil as well. But it was really that moment right there where you take the Timo penalty. Markstrom immediately lets it in, where momentum died, and that was only echoed in the third period where the Devils were trying to gain momentum, but then they, and I think they even had the power play there to start. Um, but Luke Glendening quickly takes a penalty, and a really dumb head scratching penalty at that. Um, I think there's even a question there. There's an argument to be had whether Allen, should have came in for Markstrom in that third. I probably would have done it, if you charge all the way back in this game. But no, alas, that is not what happened. I think there's a bigger picture take with all this. I don't think Markstrom's terrible. I don't think he's terrible overall, despite last night. Rough start to the season for sure. Rusty start to the season. I think he'll bounce back. I will say though, I mean, my ultimate take here is that it would be extremely unwise for Tom Fitzgerald to rush into this extension. It would be extremely unwise, and it sounds like that's what he wants to do, right? Every report that you hear, everything that I've heard and given to you guys, it makes it sound like Fitzgerald is just eager to get this extension done. He wants to get it across the finish line. And even with the injury that he just went through, he didn't seem to flinch. He was going on doing interviews and basically saying that he was that he wanted to get this extension done. That both sides are uh, eager to get this across the finish line. I think that he should wait. Yeah, the biggest narrative that I've heard around Markstrom, and people have told me, is that, oh, he's a slow starter. I kind of dived into it, and I would have to do a deeper dive because I really just kind of skimmed over it. But I don't think that's necessarily that true. Like I was looking at some of his game logs and stuff like that early last season, early the season before. Really, that only the 22-23 season when it started off not disastrous. Disastrous is strong. Um, but he was, weaker at the beginning and had to pick himself up. Um, I do think that it's going to take any goalie time to kind of get to Vezina level, which is what the Devils traded for Markstrom to be, as a Vezina level goalie. Um, but it's just, you see this early start here for him this season. You see, I would say, just about since the second half, since the second period of that Carolina game, when things have just completely gone downhill for him. So um, I would just hold off. I'm not saying you throw you get Markstrom out of here. I'm not saying that at all. But think twice before jumping into this extension. If I were Tom Fitzgerald, wait it out. Because or maybe try to get him at a low value now, and then have him be an easy trade candidate, but do not give him this large AAV, which seemingly he's wanted to get, based off potentially taking a lower term. Wait it out, because if it goes haywire here, let Allen be the mentor. Allen can be the mentor. Dawes can be an interesting stopgap option between now and when Yegorov gets here. Dawes is Allen's off to an excellent start this season. But heed warning before throwing gobs of money at the at this 35-year-old goalie, embattled in contract rumors, and who's off to just about as rusty of a start to the season as you can get. Yeah, but again, I think it all tonally was just set with that awful delay of game penalty that you saw there at the beginning. But thank you all for, again, tuning in. That's just my opening little take here on last night's game. I thought it was interesting that the Devils pretty much they got blown out two times in one night, because they have the comeback. They go down 5-0. They have the comeback, and then they still lose the game by 4. So that's obviously the sign of a really bad performance from the defense, which is clearly missing Brett Pesce. There's no doubt about that. The special teams, which looked terrible last night, giving up a ton of power play goals to a really, really a good offensive Colorado team. And Sheldon Keefe said, he says, he's been saying this for days now, that team is Colorado is probably the best offensive team in the league. And you see that, just even the 5-on-5 shifts look like a power plays for them. We saw that the last game. You saw that this game, sort of when they hem the Devils in their own end. Watch out. So that's been. Why would you start Markstrom against a team like this? Why wouldn't you wait till San Jose? Why wouldn't you wait till Anaheim? Why wouldn't you wait till Los Angeles, who's definitely more of a defensive team, to try to ease him back in, to try to stop that bleeding? Ride the hot hand in Allen, and then go. I don't know why there's so much eagerness to get him underway. But let's go into the comment section. Let's dive in, because the other notes last night. I think just the other thing of note is just that 4 goals in 4 minutes 4 seconds, I think it was. That's a positive sign, no doubt about that. And then especially the Jack Hughes goal in there, it was just like tic tac toe. It was just like kind of like back and forth between him and Brett. That was awesome to see. But I don't think there's many other positives to take away. The Devils got their asses kicked, and this is you kind of knew they were due for something like this, but this was to get blown out pretty much 2 times in one night, in one game, is not ideal for them to start get their second loss of the year. Devils are 8-2-0 to start the year, so things are still positive, I would say, and they have the chance to get right. But that was a rough game to have in the first, like, post Brett Pesce kind of game. So let's go in with the comments here. We start off with Killabush here, who says, thinking Fitz saw enough from last night to seal the deal on that 3 by $6.5 million Markstrom extension. Obviously, Killabush seems to be sarcastic there. I would wait if I were Fitz. It would completely behoove Fitz to not wait at this point. That would just be disastrous if he rushed into this. Dime Season says they did the same thing last Frozen Frenzy, 8-5 versus Tampa, I believe. I remember watching that. Yeah, that was nuts. So there's something about these Frozen Frenzies that they did get the worst out of the Devils' goaltending and defense. Letting up 8 goals 2 times is not great for the start of the Frozen Frenzy era. Lou says, why do you think Keefe didn't pull Markstrom for Allen? Keefe talked about splitting the reps for Markstrom and Allen the other day. He said it's going to be pretty much a genuine split here, because these guys are such veteran goalies. Because they're, he wants to manage the workload there, manage the reps there. I guess that makes sense. Hold on, let me change the color of these comments here. I don't know why. There we go. I don't know why it was blue. So I guess that makes sense. So kind of just maybe it was Allen didn't have it in him tonight. Kind of the altitude there, and he's been having a heavy workload of late. Maybe he just wanted to see what Markstrom had. Maybe maybe Markstrom looked better in practice than and Markstrom did face a pretty heavy workload in practice the other day. So I don't deny that's that he kind of looked ready, but I just think game action wise, it would have been smarter for him to go in versus San Jose versus than this Colorado team. Dime Season says what I just said earlier. Timo's penalty hurt momentum, and Markstrom letting it in killed it. Yes, no doubt about that. Untimely penalty for Timo there. I thought the Glendening penalty was a little more boneheaded, and that was the final coffin in the game, final nail in the coffin in the game. But that was the Timo one definitely hurts. Christopher says, "Good morning. Tough one last night. Markstrom, yikes, not very promising so far. No reason to rush extension at all." Couldn't agree more, Christopher. And I think you saw I tweeted it out last night, but the nerd stats on Markstrom were just as bad as the eye test proved. Goal save above expected, negative 3.71. And oh, by the way, he lets in 8 goals, which is just terrible. That's a terrible way to start. I mean, just a nightmare start for Markstrom in general this season. I think even going back, like maybe first portions of the second period is when he looked kind of good against Carolina. But overall, it's just been kind of sucked for him. A whole lot of suck for him. The suffering the injury, I thought he looked fine against Columbus, but he suffers the injury. He steals the win. He gets the win. Seals the win. I can't talk today for some reason. But then the injury happens, and that gets even more rust on him. I mean, I feel like we kind of just knew too. Maybe I saw some comments about this, so I'm just echoing that. But like, I feel like putting Markstrom in after Allen was riding so high and the team was riding so high, and Markstrom had been so rusty and coming off injury, obviously. I feel like this was just a perfect storm for the Devils' winning streak to end, and evidently it did. Andrew Kalor, my man Andrew, says obviously Markstrom was obviously rusty and looked tight. He's only got 2 games under his belt, but still you have to go off patterns, and Allen is the hand you stay with. Yeah, we again, I think it was James Nichols who asked the other day about Markstrom versus Allen. How can you hand it back to Markstrom at this point? Like pretty much is what he asked. And Keith just chalks it up to, hey, like this is one of those things that that you're gonna have to roll with, purely because these are 2 old goalies. These are 2 old goalies that you're gonna have to manage the reps there. So intriguing comments, and I understand it. I'm gonna make these comments a little smaller because it just is blocking my whole body here. And I do appreciate the long question though, but we have to manage that. Let's go back. Let's see. Christopher says, "Good to see some fight and get it close again, but giving up 8 is unacceptable." I was willing to, if the Devils hadn't, completely stepped off the gas and to the point where they have again 2 blowouts pretty much in one night, suffered 2 blowouts pretty much in one night. I was willing to maybe even stream last night because it was such a fun little comeback for them, and they showed fight and they scored in droves and they were strong off the rush, and they leaned into the style that makes the Devils what they are. This high powered offensive team, but then all these softy goals go in. I thought the defense in the third period, like it was kind of chalk because it was like, it's hard to evaluate because I feel like a lot of the defense was just trying to, how should I say this? They were trying to make risks. They were trying to take risks in order to stop the bleeding and spark a comeback and stuff like that. So maybe that's why you saw some guys pinching and stuff, more so than you usually would. I thought that structure just kind of went out the window. And the structure certainly goes out the window when Brett Pesce goes down. There's no doubt about that. But your team shouldn't crumble when one guy goes down. I know the Devils have some injury, bug right now. Cody Glass is out, Dadonov's out, and now Brett Pesce. but those shouldn't be what kills your team. Florida's kind of staying afloat right now, and they don't have some of their best players. I know their record isn't that great, but you shouldn't completely crumble like this. And I know Colorado's a good team, but you shouldn't crumble like that. Dime Season says, I feel this year the tandem should be closer to a 50-50 split until someone shows that they can take over the number one role. Yeah, maybe that will be Markstrom. Maybe Markstrom will settle into it, but right now it's all Allen. You have to go with Allen next game. You have to ride, and see if he can be the hot hand again, because that was just ugly last night. Jin 4576, putting Markstrom against the Avs was a real bad idea. Any of the next three games would have been better for him to start. Agreed, and we broke it down. It's like the Sharks, I know are a tough, they're a team that could put up a fight. They obviously put up a fight against you guys the other day. But it's like, put him in against that team. Don't put him in against this team. I would much rather deal with the Sharks offense, which is pretty good, than the Avs offense, which is elite and lethal and probably the best in the league. Desert Hawk 42 says, I thought the PK was good. I thought so too. Going into this game. But obviously this was their weakest showing of the season. I just saw a stat. I think this was from MSG. MSG put out a stat that said this is the first time since 2001 that the Devils PK has let in 4 goals in a season. I'm just going to make sure that I have that exactly right. The verbiage there. Let me see. Yes, the Devils surrender 4 power play goals last night for the first time since October 11th, 2001. I was 1. I was 1 years old when that happened. I was maybe 2. No, I was 1. I think I was 1. Andrew Kalor said, love the fight in the second period. I don't see how you couldn't. That was awesome to see. And then Andrew Kalor then says, even first period, they played well. Yes, that is so true. So that's like the weirdest part about it, is that offensively in that first period, that the Devils were so good and they were rolling. They just had that 2-0 deficit was just pure disaster class. Like, that was just Markstrom doing as bad as he could have. That was taking dumb penalties, and that was my gosh, Wedgwood was so good in that first period. This looked like a goalie kind of game, and in totality, yes, he probably did goalie the Devils. There's no doubt about that. But yeah, that was really, really that first period was a head scratcher there. Shiver Me Timbers says, hey, Novo, is there any chance the Devils could trade Kovacevic when he's healthy to avoid cap issues? I love his game, but to avoid trading Dougie or someone not named Palat. I think Dougie's the trade guy there, just because you can probably get a superstar from him. Teams will be more apt to trade away one of their stars if they're getting, maybe like an expiring star or something like that. If they're getting a Dougie Hamilton back, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I think the team really likes Kovacevic, and they did just hand him that extension last year. And I don't want to say they rushed that extension, because I think that he could be a valuable part to this decor going forward. And I think that extension is going to age well. But a lot of the narrative around that extension is that Tom Fitzgerald rushed into it. So I'm going to tie this back to Markstrom. Don't rush into that extension, because I feel like that's some of the narrative that goes there. Direwolf says, brutal game, but we would have lost with Allen in there too. We let Markey out to dry. Markey needs to find his game ASAP, though. I agree to an extent, because there's no doubt that the defense was bad this game, and it just looked all sorts of out of sync without Brett Pesce in the mix. But again, I think there was just some of these Markstrom moments, the early penalty, letting in some of those softies early on. Defense was really bad, especially in that early portions of the second, but Markstrom didn't respond with the team's response. He did not go with what the team respond, which was amazing. Like, the response from the team was unbelievable. And Markstrom did not roll with that. Nick Santola, who I have to respond to you, Nick, says, it felt like playing Carolina last year, and to start this year, really concerning trend that this team struggles to compete against the best. They beat Colorado the other day. And I think I think this win streak is going to age well for the Devils. I think a lot of these teams are going to bounce back. I think a lot of these teams are off to terrible starts to the season. So I don't, because I think you hear that narrative a lot. It's like, oh, the Devils have beat their combined record of these opponents is blah, 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 and it's really low. But you can't tell me that Edmonton's going to hover around this 500 or whatever they are for forever. You can't tell me that Tampa's going to be completely, a nothing this year. You can't tell me that Florida's going to be a complete nothing this year. That Florida team still has some spunk, even with the injuries. Um, I think this winning streak is going to age well. And they did beat some top teams there, but definitely have to get over this top of the top kind of echelon there. Um, my dad says Upper Freehill Township checking in. There you go. Andrew Calor says overall Avs are a very good team, and it was after just playing them and this one after a travel day to the West Coast, plus without guys like Pesci and Glass. Yeah, and then there's also the altitude factor too. I mean, I know that this is an indoor sport, so that shouldn't play too much of an effect, but it definitely does wear some teams down. Yeah, look, this was just a perfect storm of between this and like having Wedgwood be the starter for the Avs. This was a perfect storm of okay, your winning streak is going to end tonight. If they had won that game, I would have been. I think that we could have started planning the parade routes for this for the Stanley Cup because that would have been crazy. Moving on. Um, oh, thank you, Steve. Thank you for asking. No, my computer is not okay. I'm going to show you guys right here. I have a little monitor that I'm doing this on right now, but if you can see here, I'll put this up to the screen. Yeah, look at that. I like grabbed the laptop like this last night, and then I heard the, and this was like in like the second period, so I was like, oh, how am I going to watch this game now? So I went over here to the monitor. We survived. A new laptop is coming tomorrow. Thank you to NJ.com for sending one over so quickly. But yeah, that was really bad. But the Devils did score 4 goals immediately after me scoring the laptop. So somebody did say that I need to smash a laptop next time. Christopher says rest of the road trip is important. Can't let the snowball. I said going into this that if the Devils somehow survive and because they have a lot of injuries right now, and that is what it is. But if structurally they can survive and go like 2-2 on this road trip, a little 500 split, I think that is a positive sign. But again, you need your defense to play better. Yeah, that they just completely crumbled under Pesci not being in. So you can't let that continue. Dime Season says, I can't say I enjoyed the Lamico 3C experiment that much. Yeah, that was kind of weird. I would have tried to keep the lines as because I didn't think Mercer was that bad 3C the other day. In the first couple games that he's played, I would keep them how they were that when they were continuing to win. I know that Keefe's rationale behind it, and I do understand it. He says that it just seemed like kind of house money that Mercer was playing with, but and it seemed like it was could have maybe tilt the other way at some point, but ride that house money, baby. Do that. Because I didn't think that he was. I didn't think it was all that bad. So why would you mix up the lines that much? Let's move on. Cranman 85 says morning Novo sneaking away for a quick break. Rough game last night, but every team has a sneaker. They fought back and are still first in the league. Yeah, look, and there's still a lot of positive signs about this Devils team, right? The fight back, I think, was the save this from being, a complete doom and gloom stream. Like this was, that fight back is giving me a lot of, is stopping me from thinking, okay, maybe the Devils are going to be in serious trouble this year because I think they did fight back and that was good to see. But you just never want to see a team again get blown out pretty much twice in one night. So we'll see how they kind of respond from here. The response, and Keefe mentioned this, Nico mentioned this in post game. Really strong quotes last night. I mean, Keefe said that's the losing brand of hockey. And I think a lot of people kind of react to, oh, like Keefe is not, throwing the goaltender under the bus. Coaches never do that. In very rare circumstances, do goalies like Pete DeBoer did that to who was it? Why am I blanking on Dallas's goalie's name? Why this is so bad? I'm like blank on like the easiest goalies names. Like he's a freaking superstar, and I'm blanking on his name. Ottinger, Jake Ottinger, obviously. He threw him under the bus completely after playoffs last year, and that was obviously very bizarre to see. So you don't see that much from coaches because it can just kind of ruin the trust between them. So he's not going to throw Markstrom under the bus, but very strong comments from him about the defense last night and playing losing hockey and everything like that. Benjamin Rush says, what was the thought process of not starting Markstrom versus San Jose? Also, live show at American Whiskey after one home game. I'd be down, man. To answer your second question, I'd be down. Sponsors available. But I would be so down to do that. I'm more of a Reds guy, so maybe it'd be a Reds, but that's just me. Maybe I'll reach out to them to see what we can do there. That'd be a lot of fun. To answer your first question, I don't know. Maybe it was just an Allen was fatigued or something like that. I know Allen. So I wrote a story last week talking about or 2 weeks ago that talks about how Allen suffers with cramps and stuff like that. Maybe it was just one of those type of things. I don't know that necessarily that was the case, but Keith again, the reasoning that he kind of gave a couple days ago when asked about the split between those two is the fact that you're gonna have you have two 35-year-old goalies. You're gonna have to split them at some point, but I mean, why would you start the split here? Why not start the split against San Jose or something like that? I don't know. I'm with you. It is mind boggling to me. Dime Season says, I don't know our exact percentage, so I could be wrong, but I feel as though we're losing a lot of faceoffs this season. At least not the usual amount we've won. Let's look that up for you there, Dime Season. Let's see. NHL face-off percentage leaders, team stat news. Let's see. The Devils rank 25th in face-off percentage, 47.5. Yeah, and you noticed that. I mean, the other day, I think it was maybe the Sharks game, they had like an 11-3. They were lost like 11-3 or something like that in like the first period, face-off percentage wise, and that's why they went down early. So that was really ugly. Yeah, I don't know what's the deal there. Got to get in the lab and try to practice those. That's an easy thing that you can get through. Nick Santola says, "Yeah, I figured Carolina was first game jitters after the streak, and they only get playing against a top team where they have spurts of looking great, but it's overall bad." Yeah, and that's just that Carolina thing is just like that's like voodoo pretty much. Like that, it's bad juju down there in that arena. Like the Devils can't seem to find a buy a win there. Um, in like the last 19 or so games, they've won like 2 games there. That's really bad. But it's one of those things that good teams rise to the top. The Devils have risen to the top against a lot of these good teams this year. I'm not overly concerned that they're going to just completely be a pumpkin now. I really not, because I think Keith, if anything, has proven that he's a good adjustments guy. So maybe defensively he's going to adjust things next game, and things are going to look a lot better, especially against weaker opponents. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it kind of goes down against some of the other top teams here. Let's see what their next true test is. I have to look at the schedule day by day here. The King, I guess it would probably be the Kings. The Sharks obviously played them well the other day too. I have to look at the standings here. Like what are the Kings? What are they right now? Can't imagine. I think they. Oh no, they're 5-3-3. They're fine. They're a good defensive team, obviously. The Ducks are 5-3-1. Wow, I didn't know that. So yeah, two decent teams, that are off to okay starts to this year. Devils, are going to get Joel Quenneville for the first time in quite a bit of years. So yeah, definitely going to be some structure there. Going to be, against Los Angeles, going to be some structure against Anaheim. Some 3 interesting tests coming up for the Devils here. See if they can step on the gas. Killabush here says Fitz won't cut his losses on Markstrom, especially after how hard he fumbled goalie year after year. He should be actively shopping for another 1B stopgap to pair with Allen until Yegorov is ready. I'm with you there, Killabush, especially if Markstrom's going to demand this high price. I understand the goalie situation has been seemingly cursed in Newark for the past however many years, and that's fine, and we understand that. Devils fans especially understand that, but my goodness, man, I just would not rush into that extension, especially you have this guy in Yegorov coming up in a couple years. You can find somebody that cushions the blow until then, and you can have Allen be the mentor until then. Heck, you might even have someone in Dawes in the organization that can cushion the blow until then, because if you're so worried about NHL caliber goaltending, putting him on waivers and stuff like that, well, then maybe you try to keep that NHL caliber goaltender. I don't know. It's just, it's interesting to me. Julie says, glad I can finally catch a live stream. I've been watching all the games and live streams from Belgium. Keep up the good work. Julie, thank you so much. That is so awesome that we're getting some viewership over there in Belgium. That is awesome. How'd you become a Devils fan all the way from Belgium? I'm very curious to know that. That's really cool. Cranman says, how would we feel about a Allen Dawes tandem next year? It depends on how Allen's game ages. So we'll kind of Allen too. I feel like we always we always, we're quick to dump on a guy like when he's, when he showed a small sample size of being bad. But also the small sample size of being good can also be a little misleading. So let's see how Allen's game ages well. See if it ages well this season too. We'll just have to see. Like I'm willing to just move. I'm willing to move on with whoever's better this year. And then and then have Dawes be the 1B next year or something like that, and ease him in. Maybe he could be something in the league. It should be a meritocracy here. The Devils should not do this based on, oh, you at one point were a really good goalie. You at one point were a Vezina caliber goalie. Oh, we traded a lot of prospects for you. We traded some picks for you. So we're just going to hand you this extension. We're going to hand you the 1A range. No, this should be a prove it kind of thing. Him and Allen should be on the same level right now. And having this opportunity to be the goalie of the future. It shouldn't just be handed out. Dime Season says, hey, have to say, Grits has been a massive shining star for this team. Even last night, he was playing a solid game on top of his offense. His defense has been surprisingly solid for us. Yeah, look, his defense has been awesome. 200-foot game is better. I think Gritsuk is just better all around than a lot of people expected. People thought he might just be a shot. He's clearly more than just a scorer. His 200-foot game has been really impressive so far. And you saw, like, even at the end there, like 2 minutes to go, and this guy is like ripping slap shots, not slap shots. He like ripped a freaking wrister that looked like a slap shot because his release is so crazy. I've been really impressed with Gritsuk. Andrew Kalor says, you know what cures all this? Getting back on a winning streak. Devils need to refocus and get back at it tomorrow. Grab 2-3 wins in the next 3. Yeah, you're right, Andrew. Look, that if they can cushion this blow until Pesci gets back, that would be awesome. Can they kind of, I don't know, like, can they survive this though? Like that's the big question right now. I think they can, because I think Keith has been so good at adjustments. So I think game over game he can adjust to. Excuse me, I had to drink out of my little wicked cup here, my little wicked cup. But so in game he's been a great adjuster. So let's see what he can do game to game too. Against some weaker opponents, the Devils should look a little better. Let's see if they can step on the gas. But they were never going to win every game. They were never going to go 81 1-0. It just wasn't realistic, obviously. Benjamin Resch says, agree about Grits. I wonder what his contract will look like next year since he's already 24. I think it would be best for the team to try to go maybe, with a bridge deal, just because they want to see again if this game could age well, if this is not just a 1-year fluke kind of season. But we'll see. That's going to be an intriguing storyline to follow. Will they go long? Will they try to go long term to get him locked up at the lowest possible price? Will they try to? What will they try to do there with Arseniy Gritsuk? But I think that they'll try to do that. Obviously, his agent will try to push for as much term and money as possible. Lou says that they're watching from Peru while watching the live. Thank you so much, Lou. That is really cool. How did you become a Devils fan, Lou? That is really, really cool. Quick programming note. I don't know if you guys saw, but on our channel we have a little bumper right now that says that we have a upcoming live interview coming up tomorrow at 10 a.m. with Devils legend Martin Brodeur. That you guys, I will be taking fan submitted questions there at the end. I'm going to control most of the interview, obviously, but I'll be taking fan submitted questions at the end. So come and bring your best questions for Marty. You can actually go, if you go on the little link now, and I'll put the link in the chat right now. If you get your questions in first, I might be more apt to follow those or to answer those. So I just put the questions in the live chat, or the link in the live chat. So be sure to go look at that to get your questions in for Martin Brodeur. And that's going to be interesting because we get like a Devils legend perspective. Obviously, we also get a Devils goalie perspective on what's going on with the goalie tandem right now. And not just that, we get this is a front office guy. We can ask him all sorts of fun front office questions as well. He's in those conversations all the time, so we'll see. Going to be really fun. I'm really pumped for that. Let's see, going on. Peru, okay, answered all these. Steve Wode says, Any chance Grits has moved up the lineup to Jack's line before U.S. Thanksgiving? I kept saying, all along, and I've been reporting it all along, the Devils really wanted, Grits to go into the top six, and they wanted that process to speed up. I wonder if we'll see a look with him in the top six. I thought that was so funny last night. You saw that Jack and Brad like tic-tac-toe goal. It almost just seems like they're avoiding Palat there. And I've been a defender of Palat. I've been someone that thought his game has looked good with those two this year. Um, but I always felt like that was just kind of they were on borrowed time to see how well that would go. Um, and I think you're maybe starting to see some of the cracks there. So last game you saw some of the cracks there. I would just like to see maybe a fresh look and get a sniper on the line. So I don't know if it'll happen before U.S. Thanksgiving, but there's certainly a chance. Steve Woj. Julie, our friend from Belgium, I think, says stumbled across a TikTok from NHL in December 22, and that was the first team that came across were the Devils during that season. I woke up at 1 and 4 a.m. to watch the games live. LMAO. LMAO indeed, Julie. That is so cool. You're a brave lady for watching for becoming a Devils fan. I remember that was like the 22-23 season. It was so fun, sure, but December was when they sucked. So you are loyal there, Julie. That is awesome that was like the one suck month they had of that year. That was crazy for you to become a fan there. Um, Nick Santola says it kind of blows because I had depth questions coming in. Now everyone is going down. Yeah. Um, it's funny too because a lot of times you ask Keith like there a lot of people are high on the depth that the Devils have. And I think that it's still better than a lot of other teams. But Lamico on the third line was just not good last night. That was a really weird experiment. Um, Shiver Me Timber says, "Do you think the Devils should switch out Casey for Chalowski?" Maybe. I thought Casey had an up and down game. I actually had a lot of positive notes about Casey up until like the second period. Yeah, and I thought he held his own, and the analytics showed that as well as the eye test. But I think as the game went on, it just the ugliness started to show there. So that was not the sharpest game debut for him. Season debut for him. Not great. Justin, so maybe to answer your question, Chevy Timbers, maybe they do that. I'm sorry if this has been discussed as I'm tuning in from work, but are there other options outside of Casey the Devils can pencil in? Chalowski, it's mentioned right up there. Yeah, that would be pretty much the only one, unless they call someone up, which is unlikely because they're on the West Coast. Guys, so you raise an interesting point, Justin, because you said you're at work. Would it be better if we did these streams, like these post game or like next day kind of streams, like after work hours? Like, would you guys want it to be done at like a 6 or something like that, a 5 or 6, 7 or something like that? 6, 7. I don't know. Like you tell me. Let me know in the comments like what you guys want the time to be, because I feel like 10:30, like we're not getting the max amount of viewers we could. Oh, that's my comment. Shiver Me Timbers just says Devils. Okay. Dime Season says, is LeChance a center or wing for Devils Utica? I think he plays both. Could we see him called up at one point for the bottom six? Feels he could bring a good game for us, similar to Nason. Yes, I agree. He's off to a slow start points wise. Um, mm, you know, but I don't really care because he's like I feel like you don't want points out of that guy. You want him to be a forechecking demon. You know what I mean? You want him to be a strong physical beast, which he is, and he's got some skill as well. So I don't know. Maybe that's one of the call ups they can make to cushion the blow there in the fourth line, which did have a good night. Like let's give them their flowers because they haven't had a good game pretty much all season. So them to have a really good night last night, I thought was of note. Brennan Wright says, "Is it time to panic on Markstrom? Last season, he sat around league average on save percentage, and this year, well, I know last year's defense was awful, but it is concerning, especially with extension talks." It's not time to fully press the panic button there, but our fingers are hovering over it because this is, it's so early in the season, and he's had such little reps. Let's wait and see a little bit on Markstrom, but it's definitely not ideal. Not ideal start for him. I'm going to dive into more of the numbers here because again, everybody keeps telling me that Markstrom gets off to slow starts, and that is what it is. But I did like a quick little glance this morning, and it just didn't really that didn't come out through the numbers. 6 p.m. would be better. Please don't say 6-7 LOL. I will try not to, even though I already did. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that next time. We'll definitely go later on. Brendan Wright says he's watching in meetings. Not ideal to be during work times. That's fine. I totally understand, especially it's like a Wednesday. So not everybody can live the NJ.com life where they're, either just going to practice every day or just hanging here with my dog at home. Rumham86 says it wasn't crazy to start Markstrom if they believe he's their starter. He should be ready to play. Interesting point there, Rumham, because I was going to say that you actually just reminded me of a note that I made sure to put in. The value of getting Markstrom, I think I saw someone tweet this last night, so I hate to not give you credit, but the value of getting Markstrom is to have a ready veteran goalie, is to have a goalie that can be ready to go in at a given notice and give you pretty much it doesn't have to be Vezina caliber every night, but to give you rock solid goaltending. He was supposed to be the solution to Tom Fitzgerald's big game hunt in the goal. For him to look like this so rusty early on is so concerning. And there's a reason, like going to him, yeah, like you said, Rumham, I guess, that explains why you go to him, because you think, hey, we traded a lot for this guy. With this guy is demanding a lot of money, we should expect him to be ready to go at a given notice. And he didn't do that. He didn't deliver last night, and he actually was a complete negative. So Lou says, I saw a bunch of TikToks of the Devils and fell in love after a win against the Rangers on March 2023. I actually traveled to Jersey this January for 3 games. They lost 2 of them. Well, Lou, that is awesome. Make sure you get back to the games this year, because that was they're doing a lot better this year. Last night and the Carolina game aside. But we're all caught up on questions, guys. So that will do it here for the Speaking of the Devils YouTube show. Once again, a couple programming notes. Martin Brodeur, coming on the stream tomorrow, 10 a.m. I know a lot of you will be at work, but go to the bathroom or something, get a question into the goaltender, and a guy who's obviously in the Devils front office too, because I will be taking fan questions at the end. Be sure to ask him questions, because I will, ask him a bunch of questions at the end there, and we will have a lot of fun on the stream there. And then as for these, little post game kind of stream things, recaps, we'll be going later in the day, definitely from here on out, if we do a next day kind of situation. So thank you for your feedback there. But that'll do it. Thank you for tuning in. For Ryan Novozinsky, have a great day.